Good afternoon. 3 times in the last 6 months, I have engaged in what were actions with an intent to request an injunction on processes that were ongoing at the time. One of those was in consideration of actions that were alleged to have been taken on May 12th of 2021 regarding the implementation of an executive order allegedly about cybersecurity. I contend it was about no such thing. I contend it was actually part and parcel with the results of the default on a piece of legislation that provided one of the incipient factors associated with the terrorism risk insurance program that went into effect in a formal manner after September 11th, 2001 attacks on New York City and elsewhere. The reason I say this is because I had acquired evidence before the end of last calendar year, and while I have not formally reviewed it in a particular manner, what I have noticed are changes at the Treasury Department that are in line with illegal actions involving and intercessing through Treasury that were happening during the 2020 campaign season. At least 3 times during the 2020 campaign season, beginning at the start of 2019, the Department of Treasury specifically reissued or engaged in some sort of effort at recapitulating formal Treasury issues, including ones connected to very long term securities, in manners that correlated with policy maneuvering that was not only a part of campaign hedging activities, but was also a part of what I had identified as a pattern of racketeering activity, as a replacement for congressionally or constitutionally substantiated process around appropriations to the federal government. One of those sorts of trends happened in a very harrowing manner within the last month, within the month of July. And if you look at my YouTube videos, you will see that I am recounting real time sort of horror of what I understand is me bearing witness to a horrendous act that is not unique in American history. And that when such kinds of actions have happened before in the past in American history, we have 2 things that have been happening. One is we have a misrepresentation of the actual material factors of the history that led to these very substantial, very, very horrible events that through a actual means by which to evaluate the publicly accessible and necessarily publicly available information would be able to be revealed as a substantiation of the charges entailed. Or what we've had to deal with is horrible, horrible things that end up happening. And then as a response to those horrible things that end up happening, we make certain policy decisions and we make certain decisions about our life and certain decisions about what we will accept as leadership and at what point we will accept someone usurping our leadership. We're absolutely in that kind of a time frame right now. And what I realize is that it's the kind of thing that it takes a long time to actually get that kind of political leverage, right? And so it's the kind of thing that if at some point you're confronted with the undeniability of the magnitude, well, you might have felt like you're too far in. That sort of scale is not what I'm dealing with right now. I don't honestly, with my experiences, know how to validate that kind of a process, okay? Because the kind of process I'm going through is right in front of my face. On 2020, there were several documents that were released by the Congressional Research Service that I understood as soon as I saw them represented a specific scheme. One of them, Social Security, the trust funds, updated May 15th, 2020. Another one, COVID-19 alternate care sites, role and activities of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, May 15th, 2020. This one here, regarding GAO, this one, the other 2 are from the Congressional Research Service. This is from the Government Accountability Office. U.S. assistance to Mexico. State Department could improve its monitoring of Merida Initiative projects. The problem with this is that the other 2 are dated for my birthday, and this one, the actual report number, is the last 3 numbers on the contract number on my Texas driver's license, which has been showing up in a very specific sequential pattern for years. But there is also another, May 15, 2020, the credit union system. Developments in lending and prudential risk management. These are no coincidences. This is absolutely 100% orchestrated, and it's absolutely 100% heinously criminal. And the results of this, and the proof of the intent for the heinousness that this entailed, has been revealed within the month of July. There's absolutely no way I would pay it. Absolutely no way I would pay for your credit union system laundering money through the Social Security Trust in order to effectuate the goals entailed with not only whatever it was, this compilation of COVID 19 statistics as a substitute or replacement for labor data for indexing is, but what do we also have? Mexico, background in U.S. relations, updated May 12, 2020. So, what this shows is exactly what I have been attempting to talk about for years and attempting to get some redress on. If there was some sort of decision someone made where they were going to up the gamesmanship and say, oh yeah, really? Well, here. And then you threw it in my face, congratulations. You did a great job. But what you also did is you've revealed the complete charlatanry that has gone into matters related to what the allegations were for January 6th of 2021. Why? Not only because of S3076 of December 6th of 2019, but what is this? The Electoral College. How it works in contemporary presidential elections. May 15th, 2017. 3 years before you initiated the finance scheme you were working during the 2020 end-term presidential and other election season. You have a major benchmark. Did you intend for your finance scheme where you used credit unions to launder money through Social Security in order to effectuate outcomes that paired the Army Corps of Engineers with background connected to U.S.-Mexico relations into what? Some sort of substitute stock issue after people who were treated disproportionately relative to the overall aggregation of data on people engaged in public protests throughout 2020? I contend that's exactly what you did. It's a good old style Texas roundup. Make some sort of disturbance, knock over the fence. Let the cows run around and see who can rope what within what period of time. Now, did you have to lance off the brands that had already put on them through the Monograph Food and Drug Act and then replace it with what? Some specific kind of proprietary crypto coinage that you expected to get out of what's just been commenced in the last 3 months? By the way, all of that has on another level been shut down, and I know that. And the problem is the refusal to address the basis of what formulated the actual underlyings on the fake finance regime. If you engaged in illegal activity and tried to virtually or through some sort of coded process enslave people as your property, and then you ended up defaulting, and when they called in the default, well, you had to liquidate some assets in order to get that lien off of you, which meant you might have to exercise an illegal lien on somebody else. And then in order to evade the taxes, what are you going to do? How many completely fraudulent short-term life insurance policies did you set up on other people? I mean, that's where we are right now. Now, I did something, and the day I did it, I had a specific motivation for doing it. Why? Because there has been a process that has been ongoing, at least since 2006, when there were drawdowns at the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, that correlated with me leaving Texas and returning to Chicago, where everything I need to have in my life is allowed to be laundered out of me and sent to somebody else, because I'm charity. And so when you guys allowed for the other terms of default to go into effect in regards to the 1996 Anti-Terrorist and Effective Death Penalty Act, you did something to the quantitative and qualitative role of charity in your terrorist financing laundering scheme. And even putting a former president in the CCP so he can play terrorist but get away with it because he has the protections and the privileges of immunity, ended up getting quantitatively and qualitatively recapitulated. I am not going to approve what you all tried to do, specifically with and through Medicare, including involving more laundering through the Social Security Trust from the fall of 2019. I am not going to approve it. You are not going to get your good stock after you've allowed for everybody to be consolidated and you've allowed for everybody to be tortured so that then you can try to compel people to cede on their actual civil and human rights. You're not getting it. It's not going to happen that way. And the big problem we're going to have to deal with is I understand that because you've refused to confess, and because the so-called law enforcement decided they were going to be illegal brokers and hedge fund managers, or at least operators, as opposed to actually doing law enforcement or actually prosecuting crime through the judicial branch of government, we got a big problem. Somebody's calling in their loans, aren't they? They were never loans. It was illegal the entire time. None of it's legal. Now, if you were part of some process in the 90s where you agreed on some level that you were going to play gangster, and you were going to let somebody characterize you as a gangster and maybe lean on you because you already knew as part of your gangster regime or your little play oligarch for a while, you had a whole bunch of cows. And you could always just, slaughter a cow here and there, a couple cows here and there, feed them some hamburgers, and they'll be happy. And now you're at a point where you had to pass that on to somebody else, that you had to demonstrate that they consented at the onset based upon them accepting the illicit proceeds when they came due. You're not getting that either. You had no right to set your own people up. And you had no right to co-conspire with people from a foreign country to set your own people up. You did not have the authority. You spent 25 to 30 years in complete charlatanry. And it's a very, very, very significant matter we have. We do not have the political capital of the last 25 years. We don't have it. And what you've succeeded in doing on another level is trying to prevent against the emergence of a competent leadership that had its own political capital to work with. Because you allowed for that to be acquired by people that did not have the right to access it, and they squandered it. And we've got a serious matter. If you don't own up to what you did, you've effectively annihilated your entire fucking legacy. And even if you try to recapitulate backdoor claim somebody else's and weave a nice little composite, hoping it's going to fortify you against your vulnerabilities, that's not going to work either. These are very important matters that have to be attended to. We don't have a very long time. Last year, when this was being set up, I said that I was going to hold off for the month of July. That I was not going to acknowledge the month of July personally, because I would have waited till August. And I know when that course of events that your little spies did that thing. You did that. You let Donald Trump and other people backdate what was going on in the United States. And I can tell you, if you were a Democrat, you let that happen because you wanted to do it too. You didn't get away with it. And you're not going to do that again this year. And even if you swapped it out into some safe haven in some foreign country, including ones you want to pretend are your enemies, while you're completely cutting deals on us in order to aid and abet everything in their behalf, it's not going to work. I apologize. You are not going to be able to obtain or receive that illicit yield. And by the way, it is very important to know that right now, we're in a time frame where we are more than 2 years delinquent on mandated reporting on a global level. Now, I know, much like these short-term loans for the gas and oil sector, they want to ex post facto change it after they did a secret clandestine refi to make it look like that it's actually not due until later. No. A lot of them came due. And a lot of them are attempting to misrepresent that they didn't owe at the time, so what they did, that's not true. We were supposed to be disclosing. Nobody had the authority to engage in intentionally bad faith effort to receive the yields of a global paradigm. And then change the law through secret sessions or through some sort of subversive process to try to confidentialize information you were by law required to provide. At the time you made these arrangements, you made them under certain terms. It has now been revealed that not only did you not fulfill the terms you explicitly agreed to, but you intentionally engaged at the time with the intent to defraud. And that fraud was diabolical. That fraud was intentionally murderous, and it will not stand. You're not getting away with it, and you're not getting your little bust everybody down until we have nothing left but to aid and abet you continuing to launder Social Security. I'm sorry. You know, your Medicare for all without going into this isn't going to happen. And if you thought you were one of these private sector advocates that was just going to wait it out until the lien ended up working out, well, you're not going to get it either. Something else is going to happen, right? We didn't get the 7 and 11, and we didn't get the 5 and 25. We got something else.